everyone, it is your best friend, Caden, the guy who always wears a pink shirt. And this week we are finishing up our series on the heart, right? And this week we're talking about how our heart can overflow with everything that we put inside of it, right? But before that, we're gonna get into worship time. So everyone on your feet, here we go.
To life, our God. additions time, and this is our last week for the verse in Proverbs. So get ready. Let's say it all together. Here we go. Listen closely to my words. Don't let them out of your sight. Keep them in your heart. They are life to those who find them. They are health to your whole body. Above everything else, guard your heart. It is where your life comes from. Proverbs 4:20 through 23. All right, let's make sure you tuck that into your heart, and let's get ready to learn about how our hearts can overflow.
All right, hello everyone. We are going to begin today's story time with a bit of a challenge, okay? So I'm going to need Miss Lori to come up. Miss Lori, come on over here. Do you have a whiteboard marker?
I got one.
All right, so here's the challenge. We're going to try to write a story using these, but we have to hold them in our mouths. Is that gross? Is that too gross for you?
No, just stay on your side of the board.
All right, you stay over there. I'm going over here.
Okay.
We're going to write two different stories. Maybe we'll like draw pictures, you know?
Okay.
And then we'll see how they turn out, okay?
And is it going to be themed like for the lesson?
No, I was going to write about a monkey.
Oh, okay. Go for it. All right, here we go.
That hurt a lot. Okay.
This is a mess.
What were you trying to draw?
I was trying to show how my vase overflows, like your heart, overflows. That's what I was trying to do.
We'll be talking about that later.
Yeah, we will.
I was drawing a monkey, and he wanted to get some bananas, so he ran up to a tree, but turns out there's mangoes instead of bananas.
Oh, how disappointing.
Yeah, he has a broken heart now.
Broken heart.
Well, anyway, that was a really fun challenge.
Yes, it was.
And it also kind of goes to show that there's actually a verse in the Bible that talks about how we all have stories within us.
Yep.
And those stories actually come from the theme of our hearts, okay? Mm-hmm. Do you know there's actually a verse, it's in, I'm gonna write it right here, Psalm chapter 45, verse 1. And it says that my heart overflows with a good theme, and it recites the composition of our King, which is Jesus.
Yes.
Right? And what that is saying is that our hearts are constantly just overflowing with all the things that we put inside of it, right?
Right.
And it's also just kind of writing out our story, right? One day, what if someone looks at us and decides to write a story about our lives, you know? Hopefully they'll make more sense than the stories we put here.
I hope so. This looks like a bunch of scribble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I'm hoping that one day when I grow up, people will be able to like look at the things that I've done because of what I have in my heart. And that I'll have a good story out of that.
Right. It's kind of like what we base on the inside about how we feel and how we look on is gonna ultimately show on the outside.
Amen.
Yeah.
We'll be talking a little bit about King David and King Saul. There were two kings back in Israel, and both of them had pretty big hearts, but King Saul's heart, he filled it with a lot of evil and greed. He was really prideful. All he wanted was just to become the best king, the strongest king.
Right.
And pretty soon he started pushing away God, pushing away others.
He lost his way.
He was lost. King David, on the other hand, he was a man after God's own heart. And he even wrote a ton of Psalms. I'm pretty sure he even wrote this one.
I think so, yeah.
And he's someone that we want to try to imitate and copy. So how about we'll talk about him during our story time?
Ooh, are you gonna draw us a picture today?
You know what? We're already by the whiteboard. I think we'll do that.
Ooh, I'm excited, can't wait.
Okay, we'll jump to it.
Saul was the king of Israel. He was the very first king Israel had ever had. On the outside, Saul looked like a great king. He was tall, handsome, and regal. At first, he was respected by all of his followers and led the people courageously. On the inside, in his heart, Saul grew to be jealous of David, and instead of building up the kingdom of Israel, he spent all his time trying to go after David. God had chosen a new king for Israel. The prophet Samuel anointed David to be the next king. When God chose him, David was just a kid. David was young, small, and didn't look much like a king at all. God wasn't looking at the outside. God was looking at David's heart. God was looking at what kind of person David was on the inside. David wasn't perfect. He made mistakes, sometimes huge mistakes. but he was known as having a heart for God. David asked God to forgive him when he sinned. He came before God honestly and openly, and God forgave him. When King Saul died, David became king, just as God had planned. A king after God's heart to lead God's people. It wouldn't have been an easy job, but God was by David's side. Even when David made huge mistakes, God didn't desert him, and for 40 years, King David reigned over Israel.
Okay, kids, we're gonna wrap up this lesson with a little bit of an object lesson, okay? So, for today, we're talking about what's in your heart, right? And I'm gonna be using this little vase. See how I've taped a heart on the top of it? And we're gonna just try filling it up until it overflows, okay? So, I've taken some of this blue water. And as I'm pouring it in, I want you guys to think about all the things we normally put in our heart, right? Sometimes they're good things, right? Right now, imagine like this is just the fruit of the Spirit I'm putting in, like love, joy, and peace. We want to put in things like compassion and generosity in our hearts, right? Because here's the thing about when we are filling up our heart and when it overflows, what happens, right? Right now I'm just filling it up with just plain old water, you know. I just made it a bit more blue. And it goes over the edge, started to spill, right? So here's the thing. When I fill it up with water, what's gonna come out? Orange juice? Lemonade? No, just more water, right? What goes in it is gonna come out of it. So that's the first thing. If we put compassion in our hearts, if we're continually reading His Word and learning about compassion, how to be more compassionate, guess what's gonna come out of us, right? More compassionate words, maybe better actions. Same here, right? So remember when we were talking about King Saul and David? What they let into themselves is what later came out. Second point, got a little wet around here. That's why I had to get this bucket. You guys can't really see, but there's starting to be a little puddle around the outside. And that's the thing. When our hearts overflow, it doesn't leave. It covers everything. It spills over everything, right? And just like that, it covers every single part of our lives. So I want you guys to remember that what goes into our heart will eventually overflow. And there's also a Bible verse in Proverbs chapter 4, verse 23. And it says to guard your heart above all else. All right, so we want to obey that by remembering that just things we watch, just the things we say, that's what's going to affect what goes in, right? So thank you guys for sticking with us for this lesson. Super fun to see you all, and we can't wait to return next week. Goodbye, everyone.